It's time to go hunting. Monster hunting. Welcome to the Blue Dragon Guild. I'm Baron, and today we are talking about the ultimate monster hunter. Now, before I fully jump into this, I just want to say I'm sure there are better options than what I've picked, but this is, for me, the ultimate monster hunter. And I didn't do it on a specific kind of monster. I was basically just going for a range of damage output, something that would be super helpful when going out on a hunt for some crazy evil monster. So the first thing to state is I wanted to make this Adventurers League legal. If you know what Adventurers League is, then you know what that means. If not, Adventurers League legal means you get the Player's Handbook and one other book to create your character. So you either get Player's Handbook and the Xanathar's Guide, or Player's Handbook and Volo's Guide for your race. The other thing, I wanted to avoid alternate human, getting that feat at first level. Not that that's a bad thing, because it's actually a great thing, but that's kind of why I wanted to avoid it, just because it gives you that advantage on your feats so early on. When you're creating your character, one of the most important things you want to look at is what race you're going to play. After looking through all the races that are in the Player's Handbook, ultimately I decided on the Lightfoot Halfling. I ultimately went with Halfling just because a lot of their racials kind of lined up thematically with the kind of monster hunter that I was envisioning in my mind. I imagine, they're going out and they're hunting these massive hulking monsters, and with their halfling nimbleness, they can move through the space of any creature that is of a size larger than theirs. And with the Lightfoot halflings, they get that advantage to stealth checks, which if they're hunting, they're sneaking around, I think that'll be quite a bit helpful. Next, we have to look at what classes we're going to pick. I went with a multi-class build, which isn't my usual go-to, but with this I really felt like it needed a splash of these three classes. Starting off, we're going with 4 levels in Ranger, going down the Gloomstalker path. Then we're going 8 levels in Rogue with the Assassin tree, and then we are going with 8 levels of Fighter with the Arcane Archer. If you hadn't guessed by that last clue, we're doing a ranged build, which Halfling is also really good for because they get that +2 to their dex. If you have any question about why I picked the 4, 8, and 8 of the level divisions, I did that solely based around the ability score increases. When it comes to the feats, there are 4 main ones that I really wanted to have for this character. The first is Sharpshooter, and the great thing about that is you ignore, 3/4 cover against enemies, as well as if you take a -5 to the attack roll, you get a +10 to damage. So that's further increasing the damage output against this monster that we're hunting. The next feat I felt was very important for this build is the Alert feat. This gives you that +5 to your initiative. You can't be surprised while you're conscious, and enemies that are hidden from you do not gain advantage on their attack rolls, thanks to this feat. The key thing here was that +5 to initiative. All the things that the Alert feat gives you are really good, but with the Monster Hunter, you really want to get the drop on this monster that you're hunting well before it even knows you're there. The next feat is Mobile. With Halflings, they only have a 25 base speed, so this gives them an extra 10, and combined with the first turn of the Gloomstalker, that's an extra 10. So they're able to move 45 feet on their first turn, and then 35 regularly. Also, whenever you use the dash action, which thanks to Rogue you get to use as a bonus action, whenever you use that, difficult terrain does not cost you extra movement. And whenever you make a melee attack against a creature, you don't provoke opportunity attacks from that creature for the rest of the turn, whether you hit or not. I know we said that this was going to be a dex build, but you you can't be ranged for every single fight. There are going to be times when you have to be up close. And that is one of the key features that this feat allows you to deal with. And the last feat that was very important for this build was good old Crossbow Expert. The great thing with this is being within 5 feet of an enemy does not impose disadvantage on your attack roll. And with that, it really leads into us being able to do ranged in close combat, even though we are prepared for when we don't get to do that. So, taking a look at the character that I made, I rolled all his stats, and I got an 18, a 16, 14, 13, 10, and 11. I put the 18 in the dex, bumping that to a 20, 16 in wisdom, because we do have some ranger levels, and we needed a little bit higher for those few ranger spells that require like a DC save. Did a 14 constitution, a 13 in intelligence, an 11 to strength, and then a 10 to charisma. And the charisma was bumped from our Lightfoot halfling. Ultimately, our stats are 11 strength, 20 dex, 16 con, 15 intelligence, 16 wisdom, and 11 to charisma. So for our first 4 levels, we took Ranger Gloomstalker. What Gloomstalker gives us is Dread Ambusher. At 3rd level, you master the art of the ambush. You can give yourself a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your wisdom modifier. So with our +5 from the alert feat and our dex, that gives us a total initiative of 13. Additionally, at the start of your first turn, each combat, your walking speed increases by 10 feet, which I stated earlier, and that lasts until the end of that turn. If you take the attack action on that turn, you can make 1 additional weapon attack as part of that action. If it hits, the target takes an additional 1d8 of that weapon's damage type. So we're going with bow, so on your first round of combat, you have an extra hit with that bow that you can take. Also, you get Umbral Sight. You gain dark vision to a range of 60 feet, and if you already have dark vision from your race, its range is increased by 30 feet. You're also adept at evading creatures that rely on dark vision. While in darkness, you are invisible to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you. So a lot of monsters in the monster manual have dark vision, so this just really bleeds into that stealthy monster hunter vibe. And with the ranger spells, the one that we will be mainly focusing with is Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark is a bonus action spell, and it lets you add an extra d6 of damage to whatever creature you have your mark on. Other good spells to take are Ensnaring Strike and Hail of Thorns, and from your Gloomstalker you also get access to Disguise Self. And then we take 8 levels of Rogue. With our 8 levels of Rogue, we get 4d6 sneak attack damage, just adding more damage onto the pile that we're already building. As I said previously, we're taking the Assassin tree of Rogues. Whenever you hit 3rd level with Assassin, you're at your deadliest when you get the drop on your enemies. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in combat yet. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. The advantage here is really great because, you get to roll 2 die instead of 1. And that, increases your chance of getting a crit already. And if they're surprised, then it's a crit anyway, so who cares? The Rogue class also gives us expertise, which lets us buff some of our skills, and gives us Uncanny Dodge and Evasion, which are great for mitigating damage that maybe you didn't expect to take. And then we jump to Fighter, our Arcane Archer. Fighter gives us Action Surge, which is always welcomed in combat. It also gives us our extra attack, giving us more damage that we want. And with the Arcane Archer, you get Arcane Archer Lore, which gives you proficiency in either the Arcana or the Nature skill, and you also get to learn either the Prestidigitation cantrip or the Druidcraft cantrip. We went with Druidcraft just because it kind of plays into the feel of the hunter. With Druidcraft, you can figure out the weather in the area, like what kind of trees are around. That way you can kind of plan out your attack for the monster that we're hunting. And you also get Arcane Shot. By 7th level, you get 3 different options of Arcane Shot. The ones that I picked are Grasping Arrow, Bursting Arrow, and Enfeebling Arrow. Each of these shots adds 2d6 damage of either necrotic, force, or poison. Each one is kind of designed for a specific thing. Bursting Arrow gives you some AoE damage. The Enfeebling Arrow makes the fight easier on you. And the Grasping Arrow kind of makes the terrain a lot more dangerous for the monster. And with Arcane Archer, you also get Magic Arrow, which basically just makes your arrows magic for the sake of overcoming damage resistances. And there's also Curving Shot. At 7th level, you learn how to direct an errant arrow toward a new target. When you make an attack roll with a magic arrow and miss, you can use a bonus action to re-roll the attack roll against a different target within 60 feet of the original target. So just imagine, going out there just shooting and it misses that target. Well, now your arrow just hits this guy over here. No one was expecting that, and that just further adds into the capabilities of this character and being able to deal damage. Granted, Curving Arrow is only good for, multiple groups, but hey, you're probably going to have that whenever you're running around with your party. So now that we've looked at all the classes and everything that they get, that leaves the question of how much damage can we do? With these damage calculations, I am assuming that I'm rolling perfectly, getting the max number rolled on each die. While that would be amazing, it's probably never going to happen, and if it did, I don't think anybody outside of those at the table would ever believe it. Probably not even the guys at the table. But with that, I did calculate these numbers twice, and I got the same number both times, so if I'm wrong twice. With our longbow, we've got our first attack, so that's 8, plus our dex mod, so 5, equaling 13. And then we have extra attack, that's another 13. And then we have our extra Gloomstalker attack, so that's 13, plus another 8. Then we assume that we get our sneak attack damage. That gives us a total of 24. And then we have our Enfeebling, Bursting, or Grasping Arrow giving us an additional 12 damage. And then we're also assuming that we have Hunter's Mark up there. So that is 6, 6, and 6 for those 3 attacks that were made previously, giving us a total of 18. And then we're assuming that we have our Sharpshooter feat enabled, so that's an additional 10. And if I did this math right, that's 111 damage on the first turn in combat. So if you crit and get to roll all those dice again and get perfectly, that's 222 damage on the absolute most luckiest rolls of your life that you can deal out. While you're probably not going to be dealing out 111 damage, that's still a whole lot of dice that you get to roll to deal out some damage. And if you're getting in your averages there, you're probably dealing about 50 damage maybe. I don't know. I'm not good at that kind of thing. I'm sure somebody down in the comments below will let me know what the averages of all that would be. And if so, thank you very much. So this is the Blue Dragon Guild's Ultimate Monster Hunter. As I said before, there are probably other options that are better than what I chose, but what I chose was just based on what I like. If you have a better option for Monster Hunter, leave it down in the comments below. And if you want to see more D&D content from us, hit the subscribe button. And until next time, keep the dice rolling.